I'm here in Nevada, California, and we just finished a week's worth of shooting, and on our way back to San Francisco, decided to visit somebody who has been very influential and helpful in my life in regards to photography and going to different places, and that's Bob Hitchman. And Bob, thank you for giving us a little bit of time this afternoon so that we can introduce you and what I believe is one of the most valuable assets for photographers today.
Well, it's a real pleasure to have you here and get to talk about my favorite subject.
What we're talking about is the Photograph America newsletter. Now, Bob's been doing this for 25 years. Now, I'm sure Bob's got a lot of stories to tell in regards to doing this, but this is a 12-pound resource book that you can use to find just about any place in America to photograph. There's
Just about
100 and how many now?
130 locations.
Printed 4 times a year?
Right now it's 4 times. The last 10 years it's been 4 times a year, every 3 months.
Well, while this actually seems pretty heavy, Bob isn't one to leave technology behind, and now everything that is in this is on this.
And there's room for 4 more of this size with 2 gigs.
It's pretty amazing. So technically, you could go out in the field with this little thumb drive and just plug it into your computer and call up any location pretty much you want.
Yeah, or do it before you leave, and you don't have to haul that around.
So let's talk a little bit about where you started from, and then we're going to take a look at some examples in here, if that's okay.
Yeah, well, my education was in photography, Army education. I was a motion picture photographer in the Army. Got sent to Germany, spent 3 years over there doing mostly film work, but I also ran a color lab on the post, and spent a lot of time in Bavaria, the Black Forest, doing nature photography. I got started in nature photography back in high school when Super 8 film in cassettes instead of reel-to-reel. They were little cassettes, and I was doing nature films. This was back in the middle 50s, and by the time I was through with the Army, I came home got a nice job at Raytheon Electronics doing running their lab in Mountain View, California, and it's just been photography ever since.
So as an artist, you're never going to retire. You're going to just keep on doing this.
No, this is better than retirement.
So let's talk a little bit about where the origins of this idea came from. When did it hit you that you could develop this newsletter? There's something that obviously some sort of process said, bing, one day you woke up and said, wow, I can do this.
Well, I was doing photo workshops, and I was producing a lot of brochures and information, mailings on where to meet, when to go, what we were going to see. I was doing about 35 workshops a year, and I started out with early typewriters and memory typewriters, got into the early Apple computer, and then a Mac SE. Did that in '87, about '86, '87 when they came out. And it just evolved into using it a little more efficiently. I realized, I woke up one morning that with the idea of using my computer for producing a newsletter to tell people about the locations that I had found on my workshop, with my workshop groups. We did a lot of hiking and traveling all over the country. And I came up with the idea. I woke up at 2 in the morning. I said, Photograph America. And the first one was on Death Valley. I had a good size, quite a few people on my potential workshop customer list. Sent them all information on it, and a lot of people signed up. And it's just grown ever since to a point now where there's about 8,300 subscribers. And it keeps growing every day. I get more subscribers, and they're every state in the union, and a lot of hundreds of international people.
So as a subscriber, what you can do, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but say I'm brand new and I want to get this, you can subscribe or purchase the whole binder as is, correct?
One at a time, or collection, regional collections.
Or the disk drive, or the thumb drive.
The thumb drive, or CDs. I have CDs, but there's some real advantages to a thumb drive. You can add future things to it. You can't add them to a CD.
So once I get the most up-to-date version, then I do a subscription with you, and I get 4 additional copies a year. Is that
If
correct?
you, on my website, if you sign up for a thumb drive, it comes with a 1-year subscription. So you get the next 4 issues. Starting at the last one, the most recent one on there is your first issue of your subscription. And then I've had people who have renewed it year after year after year. I just send them what I'm doing next. I don't really know what I'm going to do, but I've got a list of about 50 locations right now that I haven't done yet.
So you got another. You get
It's
a
never
few
ending.
more years worth of work to do.
Yeah, and then when I finish that, I'm going to go back and reshoot the early ones that were in black and white. Going to reshoot them all in color. So that'll take another 25 years.
Holy cow! So one of the other things you can do is if you don't want to subscribe or you haven't subscribed, and all of a sudden there's a place that you want to go, whether it be one of the national parks or the Florida Keys or Yosemite, you can buy individual copies, both in hard copy and PDF as an individual download or purchase.
Exactly. Yeah, the PDFs can be downloaded instantly online on my website. The printed versions and the last 15, 20 issues, they're all in color. I mail them out. Yeah, I get the
So
order.
if you're an international visitor, say from Australia or the European continent, and you're planning a vacation and you want to hit a few locations, then that's probably a good way to get introduced. So no matter which way you do it, looks like Bob's got a very flexible system. I know as an American photographer, there's no question that this sits on my shelf. Actually has a bend in the shelf where it sits. Thank you very much.
My shelves do too. The newsletter covers all the newsletters cover everything from Enzo Borrego Desert in the southern California. Their Imperial Beach is right down in the southwest corner, all the way up to Cape Flattery and into Alaska. The East Coast from Key West all the way up to Nova Scotia, and each state, except for a few I haven't really done yet. Mississippi, I don't have an issue on Mississippi, but I've got some issues here on the Louisiana coast and some of the swamps down there. Love swamps, love caves, love the Southwest desert. There's some of my favorite places.
Wow, as a photographer, you're like living the dream. Well, above us, and you have a map of all the locations in America that you visited.
130 dots there, and
30 dots.
the next one's going to be Prince Edward Island, north of New Brunswick, eastern Canada, and after that, back roads of Colorado is going to be an issue, and more ghost towns. I'm working on an issue on the ghost towns of California. I did one of ghost towns of Nevada. Nevada's, I think, undervalued. There's some fabulous photography in Nevada, and my last issue, 2 issues ago, was Valley of Fire. Some fabulous formations there.
Excellent. Let's take a look inside your book for a second, and I just want the readers to get an idea of how you have this set up. So as you open up the book, you get a catalog, and every edition has a thumbnail type picture and a little description.
About 100 words. Yeah.
You know, of what you're going to be visiting. And, then as you get into it, you can go deeper in. And one of the things that I like about the way this is set up is I'm looking at basically issue 2 right now, which is Autumn in New England, which is a very favorite for anybody. And you give a little description about the history and so forth of what New England is. And then you actually, in this particular edition, give how to plan the trip, a map which kind of shows the route that you took, and then kind of a day by day, Sunday, Monday, and as well as all these magic locations. And now that I'm back in Stowe, here's Friday in the end. And you also, in the very back, give places to stay usually and best times of year to go and different things to think about when you're photographing. It's a tremendous asset to have. Really nicely done.
Well, and you don't have to haul the whole book around. With the PDF files, you can download them while you're on your trip. Go to my website or and order something or download it right there. Put it on your iPad.
One of my favorite places to visit, and Chris and I were there just recently doing a video, is Zion and Bryce. And of course, they kind of go hand in hand since they're so close together. And once again, beautiful. You actually talk about the different seasons, which I think are really amazing for both those locations because they do change drastically based upon the season.
And now things have changed since I did this. The automobile traffic into the park, Zion National Park, has been eliminated from April to 1st of November.
Yeah, 1st of November.
So after the 1st of November, you can, well, the first week of November is always the best color. Autumn, there's a lot of autumn color there. And you can drive anywhere you want inside the park, which is a real advantage. The other thing about Zion and Bryce, if I had a week to spend in Zion and Bryce, I'd spend 6 days in Zion and 1 day in Bryce.
Well, yeah, once you do the overlook in Bryce, if you have good weather and...
They've got it laid out, sunrise point. You have to be there at sunrise. That's the shot. And then 20 minutes later, the light's gone, and that's it.
And this one, I kind of got a laugh out of when I saw this. So this is you in your Volkswagen Westphalia.
In the 1982, I believe that is, the Westphalia. Put a lot of miles on those things, and that's...
But this is how you did this. You got in your Volkswagen...
Lived in it,
bus and with your canoe on the top, and you lived the dream that all of us want to live. And you went out there, and I think what is really incredible here, and we were talking about this before we started the video, is that Bob has no secret locations. He's the kind of guy that'll tell you, drive to the 3 tree with a rock in front of it and make a right-hand turn down a dirt road and go a half a mile, and off to your left you'll see a big bush, and that is where you want to shoot it. A lot of photographers like to have their secret spots. Bob tells you where the secret spots are. And you're actually, in the latest issues, you're doing GPS coordinates? You're starting to?
On and off. I've done it for quite a few years. I've had a GPS unit for forever. I've had some subscribers say, all they need are the numbers. That's it. Maybe a photograph, but just a list of numbers. Not interested in doing that. So something specific, like the last issue was on Valley of Fire in southern Nevada. You could stand there and look at the scene. You wouldn't have a clue where to go to set up your tripod. Things are hidden. They're behind this other rock back there. You've got to have coordinates to find them. Trails into canyons leading to places that maybe a little tricky to get to. Maybe a rattlesnake out there or something.
You had to have a little danger in your life, right?
Yeah, well, I've seen maybe a half dozen rattlesnakes over 25 years in the desert. The most dangerous thing in the desert, cholla cactus.
Really?
I always carry a pocket comb, a metal pocket comb for your dog, because when you step on those things, the little buds fall off. They got little steel needles, barbed. Every one of them is barbed. You step on one, it pops up, sticks to your pants. You grab it, they're all in your hand. You carry the pocket, and you can pull it off. I've got a pair of needle nose pliers, a very small one, keep in my camera bag with a pocket comb, and it saved my life many times. Now
we have like 2 new tips in regards to what additional things need to go in our camera bags. Mm-hmm. Speaking of camera bags, you're presently shooting with a DSLR system, correct?
Yeah, the Nikon D300, yes.
And you have a backpack, I presume. You haul all this around?
Yeah, I've got a couple of them. A backpack, and for my flight tomorrow, I'm going to use a little shoulder bag, pack a little lighter.
That's the story of all of our lives these days.
The big ones.
Is how are we going to pack lighter for our trips? Actually, it's kind of interesting because you've been able to take this thing and pack it lighter into
exactly.
This.
Well, I've already put it on my laptop. I use a little Mac 11-inch MacBook Air.
MacBook Air.
And that's already on it.
Yeah, actually, that's light enough you can take right into the field with you and
exactly.
Your packs and so forth. So, are there any really fun stories of things that you've run into in 25 years of being out there?
Well, fun stories. Right now I'm running out of desert locations. I think I've done all the best ones. My favorite is in south central Utah, Capitol Reef. Most people never go to Capitol Reef.
Really?
It's 11 miles wide, 100 miles long, and there's one paved road in it. Everything else is dirt. And some of the places are real adventures, like Cathedral Valley, the northeast side. It's an all-day trip. You've got a
all-day trip, driving or walking?
Driving. You're driving. You've got to have a four-wheel drive with some ground clearance. And you start out by getting off the pavement and driving through a river, fording the river, the Fremont River. And it doesn't look like it's possible. You can't tell how deep it is, but you have to try it, get out there. You may want to walk out a few feet, take off your boots and check it out. It's a loop trail. You loop from this ford, and you come out closer to Hanksville, about 10 miles away. But it goes up toward I-70, toward central Utah, and there's some fantastic stuff to photograph. But if you go the wrong way around and end your trip with a ford, the water level after a rain may be too high and you can't get out and you've got to go back all the way around. So there are some incredible towers out there. You can see them from a distance. Sometimes you got to do some real cross country to find them. The Tower of the Moon, the Tower of the Sun, they just rise up out of the flat desert.
Oh, amazing.
100 feet tall. There's some other towers. There's white fluted sandstone towers in Waweep Wash near Page, not far from Glen Canyon Dam. 40 feet tall with a large black boulder the size of a Volkswagen sitting on top. And they're scattered all
Look
around.
at all these secret locations you're hearing about. More the reason to buy this subscription. Man.
One of my favorite locations is near Valley of Fire. And the formations are probably the same that are in Valley Fire, 14 miles east, across Lake Mead, the Overton arm of Lake Mead. You've got to drive all the way up to Arizona to double back to get to this place. Half of it's paved. The rest of it is gravel road, graded gravel road. And the last is just driving down dry washes in sandy washes. I do supply GPS coordinates for that. The subject matter is a mesa covered with statues of eroded red sandstone that they all look like mythical creatures, animals, bizarre, bright red formations, things you'd never imagine would be out there. One looks just like a wolf howling at the moon. One looks like a flying elephant with a trunk, but with the wings folded back. Just bizarre things. It's on BLM land. It's open to the public, but it is very easy to get lost going out there and coming back. If you've got an SUV with some ground clearance, follow the directions in the newsletter. You'll find it. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, I want to first off thank you very much. I mean, we could probably sit here for an hour and talk, and if we're going to sit here any longer, we're going to pop open a beer. But I want to say thanks for doing this, because I know it's pulled myself out of a bind a number of times. I know I've sat in the back seat with this and several other photographers going, well, Bob says we're supposed to go down here. And it's been very valuable, and we've found some really, really good spots as a result of this. I think the whole photographic community owes you a big round of thanks for the efforts and your continuing efforts to put this publication together.
Well, it's a labor of love, and I'm going to continue doing it until I fall over.
Well, hopefully you won't fall over too soon, because it sounds like you still have 50 spots to go.
I do, and since I'm in very good health, I plan on finishing all of them.
Well, stay in good health and stay in touch with us.
Absolutely.
We'd love to maybe even bump into you somewhere along the line and see how you do all this. But just to sit down with the man behind the book, or actually now the man behind the thumb drive. Yeah. It's been really quite a pleasure, and I appreciate you taking the time today to share some of this with us. And my hat is off to you, and thank you very much for what you've done for all of us for the last 25 years.
Thank you, Kevin.